Welcome back to Open House with Jerry Cornejo, where we feature people, places, and things that are in the news or who should be in the news. Well, the topic for this program is 2012, the good, the bad, and the ugly. During the first part of our program, we discussed the good, and with us to share their views and opinions would be two GNN hosts, and that would be Mr. Larry Bruhard and Mr. Harry Tambuatco. Just for a recap, the good, it was the U.S. elections and election of President Obama. And according to Mr. Harry Tambuatco, the good for him was the Philippines looking up, looking pretty, you know, and on many levels. And on my part, I thought the good was Mr. Renato Corona was ousted as Chief Justice, and I thought that this would kickstart a revamp, or not more revamp, rejuvenation or a reinvention of our present judiciary, which is very corrupt, I think. Okay, so now we go, is this from the pan into the fire? Because now we're going to be talking about the bad, 2012, the bad things that happened, or the bad. It could be a person, place, or thing. It could be local, it could be international, it could be spiritual. So, Mr. Harry Tambuatco, the bad, 2012.
The bad. Worldwide, the bad news is Syria. The dictator Assad, who refuses to come down, regardless of how he rationalizes his position and his government, he calls it a civil war. The rest of the world has condemned it, and that to me has got to be the worst of the bad. That's what I would call the bad. Here in the Philippines, bad. The proposition by the two major political parties to promote their families into politics, into positions all at the same time, so that we can see mother, father, brother, sister, you know, dynasties that continue to metastasize, giving the people no longer any choices. It used to be in the provincial area where these oligarchs reigned. We called them warlords. Today, it's no longer that. It's national. They're in the Senate, and they're all being promoted to be a family. So I guess we soon will change the name of the Philippines to the different family names. Now, the problem here, it's okay to have dynasty, especially, you see, the question, is there such a thing as a good dynasty? That question does not exist. There is no good dynasty. The problem with dynasties, as they extend and they get more life, they metastasize. They mutate into what you call oligarchies. An oligarch is a person or a family that will continue to amass a private army because it's the only way to protect their wealth, their power, and to push their authority. The problem with oligarchs is the statement that goes with their characterization. It's called insatiable appetite. The insatiable appetite of these families that rule now in the national level will war against each other. We've learned this through the history books. The history of China, all over Asia, Europe, America. The oligarchs will fight each other because of their insatiable appetites, called greed for power. Once they start warring with each other, the people become collateral damage.
Would you like to name names, Harry?
Very easy. You have the Binays, the Cojancos, the Aquinos, the Cayetanos. Should I go on? Because it keeps going.
Go ahead, go ahead.
It keeps going on.
I haven't heard some names that belong there.
No, there's so many. Just the Senate. Just look at the Senate.
Okay.
They're all interrelated. It has to stop. Please. That's the bad.
How about...
it becomes ugly if when they sit
later
in
we talk
2013.
about ugly. But
yes.
How about the Kennedys? I mean, wasn't that a political dynasty?
Yes.
Also?
Yes.
In America,
Yeah.
in America, to the present day, it is a high of 7%. Right now, without the Senate, without the national elections for senators in May, we're already hitting 78, almost 80%. There's a dip of dynasties.
Okay.
We already are in the 80 percentile of dynasties in government and those who have been given mandates.
You mean existing and attempting?
Both. 80% today. If they win, the attempt, I think it's going to go up to maybe about 90%. Then the families in this country will rule the rest. It's sad because it will kill the country because these people will fight each other. Because once they've gotten into positions, they will shoot each other. We've seen this in the 60s, 70s. This is one of the main reasons martial law came about. That's why we gave that option to Ferdinand Marcos, because they were shooting each other. I remember 71, 70, 71, 72. They were shooting each other nonstop. The people, we were collateral damage. This will happen again. At the rate we are going, we have to get rid of the dynasties.
Okay. What was the first thing you said?
Syria.
Syria
Is
and
bad.
political dynasties.
Yes.
Harry Tambuadco. Larry Bruhard, the
Okay,
bad.
Harry mentioned, you mentioned the Kennedys. Actually, the Bushes had two presidents, one in between each other in the United
No,
States.
he was governor,
But I wouldn't-
while the president was father.
No, but,
So it's a
but
dynasty.
then, yeah, of course, but then he became president as well, you know, so that was there. My two bads are, I guess we'll blame them on God, you know. Sandy,
Typhoon
the
Sandy.
Typhoon Sandy, and Pablo, was it?
Pablo.
Pablo. What do you do when you have a disaster, a natural disaster like that? It's bad. How do you respond? In the United States, I was really pleased to see the response of local response everywhere. It was just wonderful. In that devastation, people lost their whole lives just as they did here. And the response was very good. There's a cleanup. It's going to take 10 years or however long it is. That's bad. And we can't see that coming. There's not anything we can do about it other than the global warming and maybe on a long-range plan. Pablo resulted, though, the big damage from Pablo resulted from unscrupulous business people who cut down trees
Yes.
that are against the law, and nobody does anything about it.
So in other words, crimes against nature.
Yes,
Logging
yes.
and mining.
And mining.
Mining, too. I
So
forgot,
what
yes.
happened in Pablo is not the fact that we can't blame God for the storm coming through, but we can certainly blame somebody for the death and the devastation that resulted from it. And what do we do about that?
So are you asking me?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, to me,
No, I mean,
to
that's
me-
a rhetorical question,
right.
of course.
Well,
you know,
well, to
that's
me, of
a,
course.
you
I
know.
mean, those are natural disasters.
Yeah.
Of course, it could in the Philippines. It could have been mitigated if there was no illegal logging and there was no
Mining.
mining. You know, illegal mining or even the full-scale, whole-scale mining. Okay, so it could have been mitigated, but I thought that the response, even in the Philippines, was very good.
I do too. I
That's
think
very
it
good.
was so much better
Right.
than in the past. No, I thought so as
I
well.
agree there.
No, that
Right.
was,
I congratulate government there.
and the fact is that, you know, during Ondoy, we saw politicians come out just for a photo shot, and then they were gone. That wasn't what happened in Pablo. I agree with that. I believe they did the
Okay.
best they could possibly do, you know.
Right.
It's just too bad that the devastation occurred.
Okay,
You know.
my take on the bad. It's both local and international, but mostly the Philippines and the United States. I think we have too many loose guns. Of course, luckily, in the Philippines, we don't have wackos who massacre people, you know, except for, of course, the Ampatuans.
I was gonna
You know,
say
of
that.
course, the Ampatuans, you know. And, but aside from that, that's a very isolated case. Now, in the United States, and every time that happens, by the way, in the Philippines, there's no argument, there's no NRA, and we don't have a gun lobby here that says, no, people should own guns. As a matter of fact, we don't have the Second Amendment, so Filipinos don't have the right to bear arms. And I think that is pretty good. Although, from estimates, I think we have something like 800, 900, close to 1 million loose firearms in the Philippines. But as I said, you know, the Ampatuan case, which I would go into the ugly later on, but I just touched on this because of the guns. But in the United States, something has to be done about the loose firearms. And up to now, the NRA and the people in the gun lobby insist that, you know, guns don't kill people, people kill people. What do you say about that?
Well, you stole my ugly point.
Okay. No, we can go back to
Okay,
that.
we're gonna do.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I won't mention the NRA here because I'll wait for the ugly part. for the NRA, and it's very difficult to talk about them because this is a family show, and you can't use the sort of colorful words I would like to use when I think of the NRA.
Right,
You know?
right.
But and I mean that I'm really big on this subject, and I'm glad you brought it up. As far as the right to bear arms, most people really don't understand the right to bear arms in the United States. The Second Amendment of the Constitution starts us off with a well-regulated militia, which is an oxymoron to begin with. There are no well-regulated militias there, and never has been. The militias during our Revolutionary War were the bane of General Washington. He finally was able to get this fellow from Germany to come in, the German general, to teach the guys so they didn't run away, the militia not to run away the first time they heard a gun pop off.
Right.
So the idea, I've read, I mean, thousands of pages probably about Jefferson, about Benjamin Franklin, about John Adams. I can't find one mention that they wanted a Stinger missile in everybody's in everybody's barn, or that they wanted an assault weapon in everybody's closet. That's just silly.
Larry,
That's crazy. You know?
let me just, this might be oversimplification and much easier said than done, but then maybe we can have a constitutional, well, the United States can have a constitutional amendment and take that out completely.
Doesn't even need it.
Doesn't need it.
Doesn't need it. All it needs is two or three politicians who have the guts to stand up to the NRA. But we're going to talk about them in the ugly part, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I'm going to let you continue, and we'll get into the NRA. And I promise that I will not use those colorful words that would get us in trouble.
Okay.
Here.
So for this segment, we were talking about the bad, and Mr. Harry Tambuatco said it's Syria and dynasties, political dynasties in the Philippines. Syria international, political dynasties local. And Mr. Larry Bruhard, when it came to the bad,
the natural disasters were bad, and frankly, we don't have the Sandy and Pablo, and we can't blame anybody on that. And we can say that for the responses, we're very good actually
on both sides.
On both sides, right.
And for me, well, I was saying that the bad was loose guns, guns, whether it's in the Philippines or in the United States. We all got shocked with this massacre of the children. Now, when we come back, it's not going to get any better. We're going to be talking about the ugly, right? And so, Open House with Jerry Cornell will be back with our two co-hosts from GNN, Global News Network, Mr. Harry Tambuatco and Mr. Larry Bruhard. Stay tuned.